Hello and welcome to Fluent Friends.
That is Nick, and I'm Banai.
Yeah, nice to have everybody back here for season 2. And today we're going to be discussing a nice, juicy topic related to romantic relationships. Banai?
Breaking up.
Exactly, breaking up. It happens to everybody, unfortunately, in their life. We all either get broken up with or break up with somebody.
Unfortunately, yes. So this thing that we're talking about is not just a regular breakup. It's a trend, I think, in breaking up that actually I've brought up in my group classes before. Because there's this piece of survey that people did about young people's breakup habits now, or I should say nowadays. So what is this survey?
Yeah, so the survey conducted asked people their preference. How do they break up with somebody? Are they doing it in person? Are they giving somebody a phone call? Or, Benai, what's the number one way that Gen Zers like to break up with their romantic partner?
Apparently, they break up with each other through texting.
Right, exactly. And then just to bring the listeners in, when we refer to Gen Z, we're talking about that younger age group.
My memory could be a little fuzzy, but I think Gen Zers are the ones after 2000-ish.
Yeah.
So they're probably, from high school to college right now, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And the closer to 30 would be millennials, as they call them.
As they call us. We're millennials.
We are millennials.
I'm an
not
older
Gen Zers.
millennial.
You are. We're kind of like on two ends of millennial.
So I think it's an interesting survey, even from the perspective of a millennial, because we also grew up with phones and texting. We were kind of the first generation that used them when we were talking with our girlfriends or boyfriends.
Yeah, I still remember texting for the first time and trying to figure out how many times do you have to press to get the right alphabet. Texting on Nokia phone.
I was broken up with by my high school girlfriend via text.
No way.
And we were texting so much because we were breaking up. And obviously I didn't want it to happen that I, at that time, didn't have unlimited text. So I went over my bill and it was really high. And my mom was very upset with me.
Oh my God. That's what happened to my brother. So you were like my brother.
But I cried. Did he cry?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, people cry over breaking up, but that's funny. People now, a lot of us grew up with texting, but now there seems to be an aversion, a dislike towards picking up phone calls. I don't know about you. I think I personally don't really like picking up phone calls or talking to people on the phone unless they are close families. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I think most of us nowadays, we text people week in and week out for the little things that we're going to be doing. I pretty much only call people who are close to me or people that I haven't spoken to in a while. And even then now with video calling after COVID, I find that when I want to talk to some family members that I haven't spoken to in a while or people back in Taiwan that I haven't to, sometimes I just video call. But texting reigns supreme. That's what we do day in and day out. And so it makes sense that this is kind of the trend of how couples break up. But there are some people, some psychologists and relationship advisors, those exist, don't they?
I think so, yeah, like coaches.
Yeah, coaches, exactly. I think there is some pros and cons, wouldn't you say, of breaking up via text?
I do want to look at both sides. I feel like my knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, it's horrible. But then when I think about it, I actually did break up with someone via Facebook Messenger.
Wow.
When I was a freshman in college, I remember that. And if I think about it that way, some things are a little bit true in terms of the benefits of breaking up.
You feel proud of yourself?
I wasn't. I feel incredibly ashamed of myself. But I was also a big relief because I didn't have to see that person face to face. So I think that brings us to some of the, I guess, quote unquote, benefits of breaking up via text.
Yeah, and one of those benefits is temptation, right? So when you see the person that you have been in a relationship with and you're going to meet with them one last time and break up with them, you may be tempted to not actually go through with it, right? And then you're prolonging a relationship that might be toxic or it might not be good for either of you. So that's one thing that I think breaking up via text, you do that and then you delete them from everything.
Block them.
You block them and you delete them. It's pretty cruel, but it is a cruel world out there.
That's true. If I just think about my one example there, I do think that it's quick. It's non-messy, I would say, compared to seeing a person, face to face. You could be crying. Your eyes are swelling up and you don't want the other person to see you this way. Or maybe you just don't care about the other person.
Wow, Benai, you're brutal. It's like a saying that comes to mind is you just got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Oof.
Right? And, if you ever had a Band-Aid on, you try to take it off slow.
You rip it off.
You just got to rip it off quick. That's the
it's
easiest
like,
way.
长痛不如短痛. Like long pain is not good. Just make it short.
Exactly. I think one of the reasons why this trend has increased over the years also is not only because everybody's on their phones texting more than they are giving people a call, but a lot of relationships now start from texting. They start in dating apps. That's something that even I can remember 15 years ago or 20 some odd years ago. It was still considered a bit strange to meet somebody via a dating app. But now that has totally swung in the other direction, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I've heard some people telling me that they prefer meeting people online because they can text, kind of very gently get to know the other person before just going into a bar and getting a drink and doing all that stuff. They prefer seeing a lot or texting a lot of people at the same time and then choosing one instead of having just a person come up and talk to them or choosing a person to talk to in a group.
Yeah, and I think Benai and I could have a whole nother podcast based on kind of dating apps and how people are using them. And it's very fascinating, in my opinion, especially as somebody who extremely, can't stress this enough, unsuccessfully tried to enter the world of dating apps. And let me just say, it is exhausting to try to keep up with texting people that much. And I think, too, in some senses, people have an idea of what they want. They see the profile, oh, this person's this height, or they have pictures with a dog, and I'm going to like that person. But that's not always the case, right, Benai? Because when she first met me, she was like, this dude's kind of short. And she did not like short dudes, but it worked out well for me.
I think dating app is a trend that won't be reversed because it's very primal. You look at a person's profile, picture, height. Maybe there's a photo with a dog or a fish, and you're like, oh my God, I love fish, right? So I think it's quite convenient, and you start texting this person or a group of people at the same time. There's no commitment. But at the same time, I do think a lot of things are lost in texting because different people can be looking at the same text and feel differently.
That's true. You lose a connection when you're simply texting somebody versus meeting a person in real life. When your eyes meet for the first time, as mine did with Benai, and then she looked away really quickly. And I think there's a connection there. And then there's also a connection when you're continuing a relationship when you're actually speaking with somebody. And you can hear the inflection in their voice and their tone and their excitement. And sometimes that connection is a little lost in texting. Certain texts, or maybe even now, people are using emojis or GIFs. They could be misinterpreted.
For sure. Not even just in a relationship. There's one time a student texted me in eggplant. And I was like, do you know what that means? She told me, I don't know. I've been finding that eggplants are very cute emoji. And then I told her what that could mean in the world of English speaking online space. She's like, oh my God, thank you for telling me.
Yeah, that's pretty awkward.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was
fine.
And
we won't tell you what it is now. Let's just say it represents a certain body part and you can do your own research, but beware. Not safe for work. So I think that the loss of connection is one drawback when your sole interaction with somebody is via text. There's a double-edged sword in there as well, and it kind of relates to the loss of connection in that you have some people who have low self-esteem or they're not very extroverted, and dating is difficult for them. Going to some type of public place and just walking up to a stranger and talking doesn't make them very comfortable. And so in that sense, the dating app is kind of perfect for them. Like you said, it's not that it's low effort, but there's low risk in it. And that can be good. But there's kind of a negative to it as well, don't you think, Benai?
Yeah, if a person never tries to take that risk to meet new people
in person,
yeah, I feel like that could be. But it does kind of give, people who are mostly introverted some sort of a soft opening or maybe a soft landing to ending a relationship. And the more I think about it, there are some good things in terms of breaking up. If we're sticking to the theme, breaking up via text, is that people can think about what they text. Whereas in person, maybe you're in the heat at the moment, maybe there's a heated argument, you tend to say ugly things. I think in text, people probably tend to think a little bit more and it may come out a little bit more reasonable or illogical.
They save a million drafts. They read them over and over again, and then, boom, you hit them with the 5-paragraph essay via Messenger or
That's
via
really
line.
long.
Yeah, exactly. Even with all of those positives of breaking up with someone via text, if I'm speaking truly from my heart, and of course when I'm speaking to you listeners, I always speak from the heart, I would say that I think I'm a little classic. I would prefer that somebody break up with me in person. And maybe that is a bit selfish. You want to see that person for the last time. I think sometimes it is selfish. You kind of want that person to feel guilty for what they're doing, which is bad. But I do think it is a little disingenuous to just throw out a text message. But the one caveat I would say is it depends on how long you've been dating for. I mean, if you just went on a date or two with somebody, then you don't have to break up with them in person. But if you've been dating for, I don't know, at what point do you think maybe in person would be the right way to do it?
That's true. I think it depends on how serious your relationship has been. That is true. I do think that meeting with a person to talk about feelings, to talk it out, as they call it, definitely shows a lot more respect for what you have been through. But a lot of relationships nowadays are very casual. Maybe that's why they started texting to end relationships.
That's true. And I think that, again, we could have probably a whole podcast series about this because that brings up other issues that's happening in the dating world is there's more feelings of FOMO. When you can swipe right on 20 people in one night to find your date, you're going to go on a few dates and then you're going to keep swiping and think, well, he was good or she was good, but there's hundreds of other people in my area that I could be dating. I got to try out that one.
Yeah,
and
so for the context, FOMO is fear of missing out, which roughly translates to 饥饿心理 or 错失心态, meaning that you feel like there's always something better later.
Whether you want to break up with somebody via a phone call, in person, or text, I really think it's just whatever you prefer, so long as the number one thing is that you're kind to the other person, because breaking up isn't an easy thing. Unless they really wronged you and they're a really bad person, that's really all that matters in the end. And, we really shouldn't judge somebody for the decisions that they make regarding their romantic lives.
Yeah, and I think a person who wants a nasty relationship, this person is going to be nasty via text and calls and in person. So.
Yeah, and they're gonna live stream it. Knowing what we go through today, that's gonna be a TikTok. Is I just broke up with my boyfriend, or I just broke up with my girlfriend. Watch me do it live.
And there's like 5 million views.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it's about being respectful. Whatever you think is respect in that circumstance. If you think text is enough, then that's probably enough.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.